Hey everybody, how's it going? Thiago here and welcome to another video. This video is going to be a little bit different because actually this is a Q&A video. Q&A means questions and answers. I decided to make this video and post it today because I got many comments under the first episode of the podcast. You know, the episode where I share my personal story of how I learned English. So there were so many comments that I felt the need to actually record a video answering some of those comments because it's just a lot. I have been going back and reading the comments and responding, but since it's a huge volume, I think a video here would be great. All right, so this video is not going to be your typical lesson video. It's just going to be a conversation of myself here answering some of your comments and questions under that video, okay? So let's get started here so we don't waste any time. The first two questions here, they are similar. One comes from Jean Silva, 8429, and the other comes from André Munici, I think. Let's say Jean and André, right? So Jean says, my problem is that I understand almost 100% that you spoke on that video. But when I want to speak or write, I have difficulty. In my case, what I have to do to improve my English? And Andrea says, sometimes I feel frustrated because I understand 99% of what you say, but I still can't speak well. Guys, I get this question all the time. I think that was maybe one of the most popular questions, something along these lines, something similar to this. Something like, Thiago, how come I can understand pretty much everything you're saying here, but I can't speak myself, okay? When I try to speak or even write. Guys, my answer to this is, you have to practice the skill that you are trying to improve more. For example, think about a skill that you do very well, that you are very good at. Maybe you are a good driver, or maybe you cook well. You make good food, or maybe you play football or soccer very well, or you play a musical instrument very well. Think about something that you do very well. Think about it, okay? Do you have that one thing in your mind that you do very well? How did you get good at that thing? By doing that a lot, right? Repeatedly, over and over again. If you want to be great at cooking, guess what? You have to cook frequently. You have to be in the kitchen frequently making new dishes and food. If you want to be a good driver, you have to drive. You have to get into the car, go out there and actually drive the car. Okay? My point is, you have to do more of the skill, You have to do more of the skill you are trying to improve. So if you feel like you can understand everything I'm saying here right now, but you yourself can't speak as well, this is an indication that you have to speak more. You have to actually practice the art or the skill of speaking. Open your mouth, using your voice to emit the sounds. So you have to practice this more. You can practice speaking with people, okay? With apps, but you can also practice by yourself, like I said in that video. But it's the physical act of moving your mouth and using your voice to make sounds. Maybe you're not doing that enough. The same thing goes to writing, okay? I don't write well, so you have to write more. About writing, guys, one thing that I used to do a lot when I was learning English more, let's say seriously, was I would pick a notebook, a pen, and then open a book in English or an article that I saw in English online, and I would just copy. Literally, I would copy that article, that book, imagining that I was the writer, but I was copying every comma, every period, every word, just to practice the physical act of writing, of putting words to paper in English. This is really powerful. So my recommendation is, find ways to do more of the skill you are missing. If it is speaking, speak more, even if by yourself. And if it is writing, write more. I know it's kind of a simplistic answer, but it's the truth. You got to do more of that. All right? Let's move on here to the next question. I am working on, this is from Twitter Tour. I am working on learning English in Brazil. Could you please indicate where you found the statistical numbers of people who are or aren't fluent in English in Brazil? Oh yeah, I believe in that video I talk about how 95% of Brazilians don't know any English and only 1% is actually really fluent. I got that from a study that was done by the British Council, okay? If you look it up on Google, I think you're gonna find it. Go to Google and type in level of proficiency in English in Brazil, British Council. It's a whole PDF full of data, charts. It's really interesting. I have to tell you though that I think that study was done 10 years ago. So maybe it's not so up to date. Maybe nowadays the numbers are a little bit different, but still, I mean, it shows that there's a huge need for effective English learning and teaching here in my home country in Brazil. But yeah, do look it up on Google, okay? It's by the British Council. The next comment here we have, it's a comment from Eduardo, okay? And he says, bro, you literally described the same experience I had working. I used to work in a store located in downtown of my city last year when I was 18, which is very visited by tourists and foreigners as well. And I tried to make conversations with literally any foreign customer who would walk in and talk as much as possible. And after assisting them, this is a good word, by the way. When you assist somebody, you help them. This is a more formal word for help, by the way, assist. So after assisting them, I also would ask them for feedback, advice and stuff. So I feel really identified with you. Greetings from Mexico. Awesome, Eduardo. Thank you so much. Mexico, Brazil, that's great. Yeah, it's great to see that our experiences in that department were very similar. Thanks for your comment. I really appreciate that. Let me see what else we have here. Guys, I have an interesting question here. It's in Portuguese, actually. So I am going to read the comment in Portuguese, and then those of you can actually hear me speaking my native language a little bit. But then I'm going to answer in English, okay? So I'm going to read the comment in Portuguese and answer in English. So this comes from Mateus Silva, 36, all right? Fala, Thiago, beleza? Nunca fiz inglês, então não tenho prática de fala. Porém, entendi tudo o que você disse, sem precisar pausar ou voltar. Tá certo que você se comunica de forma fácil de entender e o assunto também é tranquilo? Então, qual classificação você daria para quem conseguiu entender o seu vídeo? Thank you, Mateus, for the comment. Basically, Mateus is asking here, he told me that he understood everything that I spoke on that video, but he can't speak. But he's asking how I would classify his English. Look, Mateus, I think it's very hard to tell because I think that I speak in a way, first of all, I am not a native speaker of English. That's a point, okay? Maybe that influences your understanding. But I also try to speak very clearly. I've always been very concerned, very worried about articulating the words, moving my mouth as much as possible. I really believe in the power of crystal clear communication. I want to be as clear as I can. So I guess this combination of being a non-native with deliberately speaking clearly makes you guys feel like you can understand everything I say. Plus, I don't use a huge number of idioms and colloquial expressions. You know, when I speak, I use more of a standard type of English, right? Because I'm trying to communicate with intermediate, pre-intermediate and intermediate learners here, and some upper intermediate learners as well, and help those people get to advanced. So I can't use super advanced vocabulary here all the time or speak super fast. I can't do that. And also I would say by nature, I am a slow person. I am a slow person by nature. I do everything very slowly. I take my time. So I don't like to be rushed. And I think that this personality trait that I have also translates to the way I speak. Even when I speak Portuguese, my mother tongue, I don't speak so fast. I like to speak slowly, calmly, with pauses, So I think it's more of a personality trait. Some people by nature, they speak faster, and others by nature speak slower. I tend to speak slower because I prefer, okay? But about your level, I think it's really hard to tell which level you are. I would say that you might be, this is a wild guess, okay? You could be between A2 and B1. If you can't speak but you can understand like this, maybe A2 or B1, I would say. But I really don't know. Yeah, I would have to maybe have a class with you, for example, be with you for about an hour and maybe watching you speak English to have a better idea of what your level is. But just based on what you're saying here, it's hard to tell. But roughly maybe A2 to B1, I would say. Okay? Let's move on here, guys. I'm enjoying, reading your comments and responding. It's been great. Hope you are enjoying too. By the way, if you are new here and you are enjoying the content, subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to subscribe. Every week there are new videos here, so make sure you follow the channel, all right? This one here comes from Alexandre, all right? And Alexandre, or Alexander, right? 6828 says, "Hey, Thiago, just started following you. Thank you very much. I could relate many times throughout your storytelling when you said you had a lot of input but couldn't speak properly at the time. That's true. Or even when you talked about the job opportunities in English, some people decline because they didn't feel confident enough to apply. That's me. It took me a while to be able to speak with minimum confidence. I recently got my degree in Portuguese English. Congratulations. My English is still a work in progress, but I hope to achieve a C1 or even C2 level of fluency as soon as possible. Great job. Keep going." Thank you so much, Alexandre, for the support and for the comment. And yeah, that is true. Sometimes we feel intimidated just because the job description says fluent English or advanced English, but we never know. Yeah, maybe if you are already at an intermediate level and if you have all the other qualifications the company is asking for, you might get the job if you apply. So that's why I always recommend give it a try and see what happens, right? Provided that, again, you have at least an intermediate level of English, okay? And about going to C1 or C2, you can definitely do that. Just make sure that you practice regularly, follow content online like this one here, and study and get lots of practice, lots of input and then output, all right? And with time, you're gonna get to C1 or C2. I think the best way, by the way, Alexandre, for you to know you got there is by taking a proficiency test. So after studying for a while, take maybe IELTS or TOEFL or even a Cambridge exam, maybe a Cambridge C1 exam, and see if you pass. If you pass, if you get it, good job, you got there, all right? So I guess a proficiency test would be the best way for you to measure this. Am I C1 already? Or am I still at B2, This week I released an episode on the podcast about the proficiency tests. I talk about the most popular proficiency tests there are. So if you haven't listened to that episode, check it out, okay? Because that might give you some more information about which test to take, okay? But thanks for your comment. Moving on here, guys. Let's see what else we have. Oh, there is an interesting comment here by XY6497. This person says, "Come on, mate. São Paulo is not a capital of your country and never was." That is true. You are correct. You are absolutely correct. Let me just explain here why I said São Paulo capital in that video. It's because here in Brazil, we have São Paulo, the state, okay? And the state of São Paulo is full of cities. But there is one city inside the state of São Paulo that is the capital of the state, which is my hometown. And it's also called São Paulo. you know? So in order to avoid confusion, like, if I only say I come from São Paulo, people might not know exactly what I'm talking about, because, there are many cities inside the state of São Paulo. But if I say I come from São Paulo capital, I mean I come from the city of São Paulo, which is the capital of the state of São Paulo. But yes, I know that São Paulo is not the capital of my country, all right? But thanks for your comment. Moving on here, guys, we have, this is an interesting comment here, a comment by Tomatinho Triste. That's a cute name, Tomatinho Triste, okay? Can anyone give me some tips to construct sentences in English? My English is relatively okay. I can understand around 90% of this video, but I feel significant difficulty in writing, thinking in English, speaking, among other things. Okay. Look, aside from consuming lots of English, you asked about tips on how to construct sentences in English. I would say consume lots of English every day, as much as you can. If you're not doing this yet, you should be consuming content, videos, podcasts every day. But also, set aside some time in your week to study grammar. Get a grammar book, a good grammar book, and do some grammar exercises. Review some of the main structures in English. Present simple, present continuous, present perfect continuous, and then move on to the past tenses, the future tenses, the conditionals, passive voice. So by studying with a good grammar book every week, you will start to understand the construction of sentences better, how to structure phrases. You got to study some grammar, all right? Here in the description of the video, I leave a bunch of links of books that I personally recommend, and among the links, there are links to grammar books there too that I think are very good. So if you are interested, buy one and start studying with it, okay? But thanks for your comment. Let's see here what else we have. Oh yeah, guys, I'm gonna close this video. We're almost at 20 minutes now. I'm gonna close this video with this very nice comment here left by Alex Night Owl 76. By the way, that's a nice nickname there, Night Owl. Guys, a night owl, that's an expression we use to refer to someone who works better at night or in the evening, Some people, they operate better, they work better in the morning. They usually wake up super early, they wake up with a lot of energy, but then by 8 or 9 p.m., they are super tired. We call these people early birds, okay? Early birds. The opposite would be the night owls, as Alex here, right? Maybe you don't function so well. You don't work so well in the morning. You're kind of groggy, kind of feeling sluggish, but you work better at night. You feel more productive, more energetic at night. So in that case, we can call you a night owl. But Alex left a really long comment here, and I'm going to read it to you guys because I really thought it was nice that he shared the experience here. So Alex, if you're watching this, thank you so much. And let's read what you wrote here. Alex Night Owl 76. How come you did not learn any English before the age of 15? Usually non-bilingual schools in South America at public level teach you at least 2 to 4 hours of English on a weekly basis. Even if it is poor, you learn basic commands. Also, you are probably 10 years younger than me, so you probably grew up being exposed to English more than me when I was 15. So for you to say that you had zero knowledge of English is quite interesting. Okay, Alex, maybe you are taking my words there a little bit too literally, because when I said I knew zero English, I meant I didn't know enough English to operate with the language. I couldn't use English for anything. Of course, yeah, we always know I knew some basic words like hello, nice to meet you, that kind of stuff, but you don't talk with this. You don't have a conversation. You don't actually use the language with this kind of knowledge. And I hate to tell you this, but it's actually kind of true. Here in Brazil, English learning here, at least in my time, I'm talking about 20 years ago, it was so deficient. For you to have an idea, the public education here focuses mostly on verb to be for many, many years, And the funny thing is that you leave high school still not knowing how to properly use the verb to be. I wish I were kidding, but I'm not. You know, aside from that, at least when I was a kid, there weren't a lot of opportunities to be in touch or be in contact with English. The best thing I had when I was a kid was watching movies with my parents. You know, you mentioned the age here. Just so you know, I will be 38 this year. So I am from 86. I was born in 1986, and I will be 38 years old this year. I don't know how old you are. I don't know. Maybe you are indeed 10 years older than me. But in my case, the only contact with English that I had was watching movies with my parents, subtitled movies. But in those days, it wasn't DVDs yet. It was VHS tapes, you know, because I grew up, you know, middle of the 80s, middle of the 90s, basically. So, and my parents couldn't afford a DVD player then. I think DVD players became popular in the mid 90s here in Brazil, but they were really expensive back then. So even when DVDs came about here in Brazil in the mid 90s, I used VHS tapes for a long time still because they were cheaper. Yeah. But the problem with VHS tapes was that we would watch the movies with the audio in English, but the subtitles in Portuguese. So that wasn't much help either, because you listen to English, yes, that's good, but all the words are in Portuguese. So I couldn't really relate, what was being said with what was being written, you know? So yeah, I mean, maybe that was just my experience. Maybe other people my age had more exposure to English. But I think if you think about the socioeconomic thing, the classes, maybe kids then who had a little bit more money, who had a little more affluence, maybe they had more contact with English, as you are describing here. I was poor, so, you know, I didn't get that, all right? So when I said zero, I really meant zero, because I just couldn't use the language yet. I started to use it at 15. But let me continue your comment here. I grew up in Colombia and I attended a non-bilingual private school, but we had 5 hours of English weekly. That's very good, 5 hours. I was one of the best students in my class when it came to English, and I remember reading and listening to English outside of school. Awesome. Yeah. You see, I didn't have that so much. Like reading and listening to English outside of school, it wasn't so common among at least my social circle to be in touch with English. All right. I moved to the US at the age of 22, and I believe I came here with a B1 or B or B1 level while having a somewhat decent accent. I enrolled immediately in English classes and I was placed in level 3 out of 6 levels back then in 1997. Okay, I'm starting to calculate your age here. 22 years old, 1997, got it. I attended 3 different US universities and I graduated with 3 different degrees, and I have also worked in US companies surrounded by mainly native speakers for the past 26 years. That's incredible, man. Amazing, yeah? I think you should be proud of yourself. You know, all these are great accomplishments. I only consume music, movies, shows in English, and I interact daily with native and non-native speakers. I believe I have a C2 level, but sometimes I can make mistakes and sound like a C1 or even a B2. Okay. With all this being said, your level is impressive, and I only can say I admire what you did. All that effort paid off. You speak way better than all my friends that attended private bilingual schools in Colombia, and you even speak way better than even people that took classes and lived in the States for years. Keep up the good work, and I wish you the best. Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate that. I appreciate you taking the time to share your experience, your story here with us. I think comments like that really enrich what I'm trying to accomplish here with the channel, which is to build an engaged community of people who love English, who love learning languages, and who strive forward, who want to accomplish great things and achieve great things in life. So Thank you for taking the time, for sharing. It was a great story here that you shared, and keep following the videos. I really appreciate that. All right. Guys, I'm gonna be closing this video now. It's been 26 minutes. I hope you found this useful. I'm sorry if I couldn't get to your comment, but I'm gonna try to make more videos like this from time to time, Q&A videos. I'm also considering maybe starting to do some lives here and there, because with the lives, you also have the opportunity to interact with me live and ask me questions then. And don't worry, because I will be always reading your comments as much as I can and responding to everybody, okay? But thank you so much for all the support, watching the videos here, subscribing. The channel is growing like crazy, and I have to thank you for all the engagement, all the support, and keep following the videos, keep watching the videos, and I'll be talking to you very soon, all right? Guys, thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye-bye.